Welcome to my fourth video of this series, Meditate to Resolve Suffering. And the suffering I'm dealing with is addictions. I don't care, all types of addictions. And this video is going to focus on the mind. What is the mind? What is the word? Think of the word mind. Your mind, the mind in general on this. And I'm going to take three approaches: psychological, physics, and understanding the mind, and spirituality. Those are the three areas we're going to deal with for power, to strengthen yourself. Now, this video series is going to be focused more from a male approach, because I'm on this. And for females, you have to I'll make some adjustments to it, but the very function of the mind is both identical between males and females for addiction. When it gets more interesting, it phases. There's like two phases. There's the male phase of the mind, and there's a female phase of it. Is when you start incorporating the body into the brain involved. Therefore, emphasis or focus or priorities change to meditate. To meditate, you please look up the definition in Google. Just literally type in, define what is meditating involved. The more definition, the more clarity. I'm going to try to be as accurate in my words as possible. That's my goal, to be accurate in what I'm saying. So you can check it out and see the value of it, because you're the one that has to overcome an addiction. And I'm just giving you, using the idea of meditating, how to meditate to resolve addictions. So understanding the suffering of addiction, all of you know. And it's a repetitive behavior trying to achieve something. I was like, when I was teaching, a guy was on heroin, and he said, yes, that first heroin kick, he says, fabulous. But none of the other shots of heroin achieve that level of enthusiasm, that excitement, that feeling. So they call it chasing the dragon. So repetitive shots of heroin, it's just trying to chase something and it can never come again. That's it. That's an addictive process. What started your addiction was wow, and then everything after that is just you're trying to chase something that isn't passed by. It's impermanent. It is in your mind, your body, your spirit even. So really understanding the addiction and what it's costing you. It is costing you time. It's costing your ability to love. It's costing a relationship. It makes you depressed even. Involved. So please, understanding what meditating can do for you. Now, how to approach the mind and its characteristics. You have the physical brain that influences your mind. What is the actual mind? I take a physics point of view on that. The mind you create, like doing a math problem, is outside the brain. It's not in the brain. It's outside the brain. You're going into quantum mechanics when you start dealing with the brain, the mind, not just the brain itself. What influences the brain is your body and a lot of other things, your chemistry. Whereas addiction most of the time is a chemical reaction within the body and mind that gives you a repetitive feeling. How do you break it? How do you change it? Well, I take a Buddhist point of view, or actually a Hindu point of view. They view meditating in stages. The first level of meditating is to realize yourself, but then you transcend up to another level where you observe your situation. You're not judging it, you're just observing it. This is where the mind comes in. Imagine a pyramid of everything, mind, body, and it goes up to the center point of you, your uniqueness, your ultimate spiritual sense of where your free will is. Now, I'm going to define it, because there's no single word that describes that point that little awareness point. And there's two parts to this. One is consciousness, aware, and awareness. It's like a coin, heads and tails. You have awareness and you have a consciousness of what's going on, what's around, what's everything happening or to you involved. So really understanding, you got to understand this and strengthen this one little element with you and what you're doing. Now, to meditate, how do you do it? Well, in the mind. You take that little sense that you name it. Whatever your name is, it always goes to that one sense, and everything is defined by that one point. A lot of people don't like themselves, so they want to change their name, thinking that one part that you know is you will alter. No. Everything else around it. You're the captain. You have your own spiritual being, and that's that awareness. That's a consciousness, and I'm going to call it me, myself, and I. That is you. Me, myself, and I. Put it all together, and it forms a concept that is singular. It's about you going through life and dealing with all the cultural pressures, being a male, being a female. There's no void in life. There is absolutely no void. Speaking for a man in my 7th decade of living, I'm speaking from experience. I got a lot of experiences. For you guys, and then I'm in 2, is when you, the one thing you try to do when you're young, and I'm appealing to all you young people, that's in your 20s and early 30s, try to not create too many regrets when you're in your 20s and 30s, because you really feel them when you get in my age. It's like, shit, I should have, whatever. You feel bad for this person, whatever. Unless you're addicted, then you don't feel anything other than their addiction. The world is around the addiction. That's the key element there. So, starting with this basic, everything I'm doing is distilling things out, away. Then I'm going to bring in through the other video series, bring them back together. Distilling down, separating, trying to find the pieces and how they relationship interact together. So it gives you more confidence, more strength to change, to become something more. And when I'll deal with that later on that point, because here's the problem with people that are in addiction. Okay, I'm stopped doing the behavior, drinking, whatever. Now what? Now, you either can fight the impulses the rest of your life, or you can spend less time doing that and more creative time. And the creative time is with your heart. Now, I'll deal with this later. I'm going to introduce this concept. It's a trinity about people, about everyone. What do you want to change? What do you want to become? And it's dealing with 3 parts: your mind, your heart, and your soul. I will define all those 3 and how they come together. And meditating is a key element of a physical activity to alter yourself. Now, the 2 words you have to understand is meditate and meditation. Now, to meditate, I look at it this way, that little put back to me, myself, and I, point, awareness, consciousness, that top of the pyramid, you cannot change that. That is your sense of self. You identify it with your name. Some people don't like themselves, they change their name thinking that's going to change this. All it is awareness. You define it, culture, language, what you believe, and words matter. I'm putting out a lot, but how do you change? You have to change your language, your emotional state. How do you do that? How do you suspend things? How do you bring something else? The key problem. So I'm looking at what you have to do with that. Really tap it. You have to view it as a conductor of an orchestra. To meditate is like conducting an orchestra. It really is that sense, because you're physically activated and engaged. It's a verb. And you're dealing with the body, you're dealing with the power of the breath, the spirit of the breath. Your spirit versus other divine forces. And then the mind, the orchestrator, you. That's your free will point. Free will is at that one point, deciding not to or to do. Go that way or go that way. And the stronger you make that, you are the leader. The stronger you can, how can I say, turn away from negative activities and thoughts that detract your heart, the energy in your heart, the projection of it. The physics go, one of my people I'm using for the mind goes into the heart and how much force, energy force, lies in the heart. And it's how you shape your heart expression from the heart. Because addictions stop that. It dormants it. It even makes it weaker, and in fact it becomes atrophied after time. You can't. It's like, how do you come back? That's where meditate. Now, where people get in trouble with these words, that's meditate and meditation, is what is meditation? It is what you pick. It's like the sheet music of an orchestra. There's good meditation. In fact, there's two types, basic meditation. There's secular meditation, and then there is spiritual meditation. There's two types of meditation, basically. And all that does, it's been developed, like within Buddhism, Hinduism, is to deal with suffering and how you neutralize it, those beliefs. Now, the Christian belief takes the opposite position. And I'll get into that later and how to deal with things. It's more challenging, it's more powerful, it's harder. Now, to learn to meditate and to overcome addiction, you know, I swear to you, it is harder to overcome an addiction than climbing Mount Everest. Because you're really bringing back and constructing the two other parts of a person. Every person has it. That is your emotional state from your heart and your soul. I'll get into that involved. But right now we're just dealing with the mind. And once you link the mind to the body, then it becomes a dynamic force. We're separating the mind from the body. Now, the psychology view from the American Psychology Association, if you look it up, Google, define what is the mind, and look at psychology. And I like this, they have a word in there. They describe other things that does this, and that. But the word, they use the word phenomena. The mind is a phenomena. Get that. It's exciting. It's choice. You're not destined to be like in an addictive state. Really aren't. But you're weak. If you've been in an addictive state, you're weak. It's like, this is my reality. This is what I'm putting all my life time into. This is what I'm putting my energy because it makes me feel this way or that way. Otherwise, I don't know how to feel. And the guilt, overcoming guilt. I've seen it with guys and with women too, two different states. But man, that is hard to resolve. And I'll deal with that later on in another video and how to do that. But this is just the beginning, understanding the mind and making the mind the orchestra leader. Now, what it takes to be a conductor? Well, you have to know your instruments and placement in such a way, and you're ready to conduct it. That's how do you conduct your body, how do you manipulate your breath, and the mind concepts and stuff. And it's all really related to the meditation process. Which meditation process you want to pick to achieve something, either spiritual or secular involved. That's a choice there, but understanding the difference. See, I hear a lot of people, say, especially religious, meditate on this or meditate on that. But if it doesn't incorporate the breath and it doesn't incorporate the body and the mind, all you're just telling to overthink something. You're going to think about this until it comes. If thinking can build something, we'd all have paradise. Thinking points you in a direction, but it's the actual physical and basically breath, physical, spirit process, your own personal spirit, to do something and to overcome an addiction. It is really, really hard because you have to replace something. You have to replace the addiction process and time with something more dynamic, makes you stronger. Males, we want to become physically stronger to become emotionally more dynamic. Females want to have their emotions clear and focused for their addiction. That's why they're addictive, because it cools their emotions. Addiction for males is it cools our physical impulses, our strength. So truly, really appreciate how much harder it is. And the mind is the key element that orchestrates the whole thing. You have to become the conductor. But like any conductor, they learn. You have to learn to be a conductor. It's there. Everything's there. But you have to become it and involved. The other videos I'm going to do will become more integrating, more understanding, more in the psychological physics involved to achieve that goal. All I'm trying to do is be very accurate in my words. It's become very accurate in your words and what words you use to do something. Because then you have strength. When you have ambiguity or confusion, right, you're going to use this word. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't have the impact. It'll lead you to an alley, a dead-end alley. I've been in a lot of those ideas before. Oh yeah, sounds good. I turn into, it's like going to, and I hit the wall and then I have to crawl myself out. I've dug myself in a number of holes. I've lived 7 decades and I've seen a lot, done a lot. I have a great history, especially having seconded the 70s, 80s, and all that. I've seen how things change and the sadness of people and the confusion of purpose. Confusion of meaning. That's it. And the mind, remember, your free will is that center point outside. As a physicist said, all thoughts are not in the brain, they're outside the brain. The brain supports it. It's an energy concept. You're actually creating a reality out of energy that you have, that surrounds us. There is no void in this universe. We can direct it. We create our emotional, mental, physical reality. Is one way or another we create it. It's either we accept this or accept that, or we realize this and we put it in our cycle of mind. And then we put it in this outside of ourselves. Isn't it beautiful, the idea that your thoughts are outside the brain, the limitation of the brain? Animals, all ideas is within the brain. Humans, that's why we're spiritual beings. That's why we create different cultures, different expressions. And I won't go into at this time other influence, but just on its sake, the mind. Great word. Understanding the word and then relate it to yourself. The fact that that little center of awareness, consciousness, you're conscious of all things around you and you're aware of everything around you. And it creates me, myself, and I, and free will to decide. I'm going to move me, myself, and I, Joe, or Mac, or whatever name that has been given to you, this way, that way, because we got to create our own emotional, mental, physical reality. That's being individual, and then we belong to a group, and then another group of humanity. Unfortunately, our cultures today, dealing with the cultures today, American culture, and a lot of other cultures, it's come, how can I say, it's come more and more addictive, how can I say, promotes smoking marijuana, oh yeah, in the name of individuality. But individuality affects the group, and then it costs the group. And if you want the group to become very cold-hearted, it says, well, It's like it happened in New York. We're just gonna. They don't want to come into the shelters. They can't. They don't even realize they're that bad off. If you don't help people as a group, it's that we survive as a group. It's not totally individual. We have an individual, but it comes back to that self. Truly, one of the greatest things I realized with my research and all our thoughts, divine otherwise, all our like wanting is our energy created outside the brain. But the brain influences it, that little self, me, myself, and I, and we have to use that as the conductor to orchestrate using meditating process to overcome addiction. I like the way the Hindus say there's like layers of, and the first layer you do it through meditating, you see everything, but you're not involved in it. When you're in the middle of everything, you're passionate, the family drama here and kids, and this, but when you're meditating, you can rise above it and not apply emotional characteristics. You can just see it for what it is. You can see the relationship down. And then the third stage, I argue, then you look beyond that, what you are, what you can be involved in a sense. And can be is not basically economics, anything like that. I can be a great guitar player now. Can be is a person, being a person of a broader emotional state. That addictions always collapse you. It will promote atrophy of heart emotional state. And your soul will wither on that because you're spending your time. And I'll back up what the soul is too. And when you get into physics, that's understanding the atoms, how relationships, they have so many concepts of how everything working. It's so beautiful. That's the point. Why waste your time on something that you can never have again? When you first get addicted to something, that's when the best fun. It's like smoking. There, I have a whole thing about smoking. It's not nicotine you're addicted to. That's another story on that. So really, idea of that you create a strong orchestra leader by understanding how to meditate and using the breath. That's my third video. This is the fourth one. And just an introduction, like this is an introduction to addiction and how to go from there. When I apply the body, that's my next video going to be on the body, then how to bring it together. And this is the mind, body, and breath concept, how they interact to the culture and you, and how you express yourself. That's a whole video itself, because addiction always limits expressing that inner self of your heart, that little point in you that you're aware, that's you, that's me, myself, and I, conscious aware. That's where your free will. I can do this, I can do that, or I just go along. It's basically three states. I go left, right, or just flow with it. Addiction's like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. I just come involved like that. So basically, people that have been alcoholics and go to AA, and they have a lot of regrets they have to deal with, and they see what is. But what meditating does is re-alters the body. Because what does alcohol? Alcohol damages energy flow. It damages your cells. It prevents you from feeling. It makes you numb. The more numb you are to things, the less you can express feelings. That's another approach you can look at and involved. I notice, man, people that are drunk, they can get hit and they don't even feel it until the next day when the alcohol's gone. When I really understand alcohol bonds with water and what is all your cells full of. It's very, very strong force and people don't respect it enough. I don't say not to drink, I just say be careful. Once it comes as a way of numbing yourself or making you focus on the alcohol and not responsibilities, you're overwhelmed, all that good stuff. That's where meditating can transcend that for a period of time and see what it is, because being overwhelmed is an emotional state, not a physical state. And it makes a physical state. By itself, oh, I got 6 things I'm doing. How do you view the 6 things that it seems like all at once? There's, within the 6 things, there's emotional characteristics, and the emotions get you confused because you're burning up a lot of energy being emotional about it, when reality is not necessary. It's just an abstract concept or event or anything. It's just the way you can manage yourself, your energy flow, your emotional state, your mental state, and to really express love. That's the ultimate. Now, when I get into defining what love is, that's another aspect, but it's love, a divine love from your heart. From your heart. It's unconditional. There's Eric Fromm wrote a book, The Art of Loving. In one way, it's a dream book. It has a lot of good definitions. It has a lot to say it, but it doesn't live in the real world. That's the problem with it. And that's but yet at the same time, it's like what we want. And it's unrealistic in some cases, too, because we overdo it. But understanding the mind and how you have to orchestrate it, become a conductor in meditating to overcome suffering and addiction that produces your suffering. Life is suffering in itself. Why compound it with an addiction? You don't. It's just a waste of time. So this is the 4th video, starting the mind and how it works. Now, I'm going to have in the descriptions the physicists that discuss the mind and how all thoughts are outside the brain and why. They explain it so meticulously. It's expansionary. You're a spiritual being. You're outside. You can have greater sensory input. You create more. You create buildings. You create art, music, and stuff. And other things, little things. Why? Because it enhances your emotional connection to life. And meditating, if you have the right meditation program, and I'm trying to get this clear. Meditation is a noun. Meditating is a verb. It's the activity. It also could be a noun, but it's basically I'm using it as a verb. How you bring those together and select is a key. Now, you can't get yourself into trouble. Meditating will never get you into trouble. What you're meditating about can get you in trouble, because it can make your heart cold and makes you angry or makes you tense or blocks reality. It feeds one of your base impulses. We males know our base impulse. And other people have commented a lot on that one. I'll get into that. That's fun. When you talk about males and females and how our minds work. I'll give you a quick sample of that male and female difference that I used to teach. You know, what would happen if a female jumps into a male's mind? Just think about it. If a female jumps into a male and stays there 1 minute, what do you think she would say? She'd take a long breath. It's so simple in here. There's food, there's sports, work, and sex. It's so simple on that. Now, what would happen if a man jumps into a female's mind? After 30 seconds, get me out of here. There's too many voices. And that is a real comparison, the difference of how males and females approach things. Compared to females, Yeah. And why when we come together in marriage, why do males need females and females need males? I'll get into that later on too. But it is the process of challenges that makes us. I don't care what it is. How do you deal with these challenges of being addicted to something? How you challenge of climbing Mount Everest? How you challenge this? And how you define your situation is matters. And this is where it's very, very important. Well, Buddhism goes into that quite well. Very psychological. Very psychological. I'll get into that too. So I'm giving all these things I want to get into in this video series. And I do need your comments so I can focus better. Only looking at a camera compared when I had 50 people in a room, I could feed off of that. It's just like this cold camera involved. But really understanding what meditating, to meditate, it is a orchestration. It is conducting your mind, your breath, and your mind. And mind is not just the brain. It affects the brain. This is the thing. Meditating can reshape the brain itself. So it has less input. We can reshape the body so you have better expression. I'll get into that because there's a single word. Maybe I should introduce that word. I'm going to introduce this word. Everyone says, well, you should change. When someone says that you're going to change, what do you want me to change? What do you want to change? What do you want me to get better or whatever? What's true change? When you really change, most people modify themselves on what they're doing, but they don't understand what they're. When you truly have change, you're changing your attitude. What does the word attitude really mean? Attitude is what we read in body language and in voice and tone of voice and emotional expression. You're changing your attitude. When you have an addictive attitude, what are you looking for? You're always looking for to reinforce it. Go get the drug, go get this, and you'll sacrifice anyone to get there. You're very close. You have to change your attitude. In addiction, that's what you're going to do through meditating. With the proper meditation approach. That's the key element too. So it's just not meditating or meditate to change. It's you're just got a conductor can set up the orchestra, know how to conduct it, but he needs sheet music. Then he can really arrange things to be what he feels is dynamic. And that's that little center of your name, what represents your name, reflect. That never changes, that awareness, that consciousness, that me, myself, and I never alters. But your expression from your heart, from your soul, from your being around, that is what you conduct for. And meditation and meditating. And that's why spirituality comes in, because that's where it goes. Buddhists are very spiritual. Hindus, every culture I know of, I've researched, has spirituality. From the Aztecs, to the Romans, to the Greeks, to whatever. All cultures have that reality that we are not animals, that there is something more. It's outside, because our brains actually, our thoughts are outside of the mind itself. And that goes into the senses involved, and understanding the senses. This is not easy to do, to describe, to encourage you to focus on this. If you want to overcome addiction, it's the best way. You can live with an addiction in the best way you can, or you can alter it, abandon it, change it to something else. And it's a matter of what do you want to replace it to? What do you want to become? What does your attitude want to become to the rest of the world? And that's where you have to have models and representation. Who would you like to be like in attitude? Not be like them, but their attitude to life, to others, to people, to be close to, and not be fearful. What we all have to fear, man or woman, is fear. That word fear is a complicated one. The Buddhists really focus on that one because our response of fear is actually a form of, bringing in, condensing, limiting ourselves. And I'll deal with that one. So you can go out in the world and feel more confident. I've dealt with that over time. So this is the end of the fourth video, introduction to the mind and how it works. I put in the description the physicists I recommend, because they literally have videos on saying what the mind is. And when you see it, it's beautiful, it's vast, it's so unnormal. Oh, one other comment. Here's a question for any of you. One of these days to really understand life, why does everything exist? Now this is from a physics point of view. How did this even come into existence? And they deal with atoms. How was an atom created? How did the atom form? And from atom forming, then how did it become water, to become us, to become rocks, gold, everything like this? What inclination of an atom in itself that makes all this? There's something to think about. Why did this? Why did all this exist? How did this all exist? That is a concept to really appreciate. You exist. You have connections outside of your physical being. We are a spiritual being. And I can and based on the word spirit, what's the definition, the root definition of spirit? I don't like ambiguity. Once you understand the root definition of something, then you can come stronger in that force and apply emotion to it, so you go that direction over the other directions. So appreciate fear, endeavor, triumph over it. That's life. That's a male's life. Well, female's life has a different perspective. But when it comes to the actual brain function, they do the same thing, their wishes and stuff. They just have a different focus on life because of our nature. There's male nature, there's female nature. The essence of that nature. But the mind, the element of name, the element, that one single aspect of consciousness and awareness of me, myself, and I. A single point that never changes. It cannot change. That is your name. It's like your name. And you think you're changing my name will change that? No. It's always there. You don't want to change that. You want to change your heart. You want to change your attitude to express. What's an attitude? Like I said, I'll deal with that. Anyway, you have a good time. Any comments would be greatly appreciated so I can focus on what I'm projecting out there more clearly. And it's all, I'm trying to be accurate in what I'm saying and projecting for you. That accuracy of words is the key element. Always remember, look up the definition and be clear. The root word is always important, and then how it's applied. Language permits us to think. Your thinking is only limited by the words you know and the emotional connotations of importance to those words you apply to. You learn from a childhood, or you apply to it to be an adult. That is the key characteristic to change, to resolve suffering and addiction suffering. You have a good afternoon.